All right, you guys, check this out. So I stumbled across this article on, the black dark web of the internet. It's from 2015, and this is the headline. The 2015 Victoria's Secret show model lineup will leave you disappointed. Why is that? Well, let's see. If you go to the subtitle, it says, and I quote, few Black and Hispanic women, no trans or plus size models. Why am I not surprised? And then in the intro, it keeps going. Get a load of this. I get that Victoria's Secret has built its brand on the fantasy of staring at stunningly beautiful models whose bodies are unattainable to the average woman. But it's 2015, and the fact that the brand hasn't done anything to shake things up since the show started in the 90s really pisses me off. Could you imagine? Then it has a literal tally just to really grind the axe of how many white, Black, multiracial, Asian, and Hispanic models are in the show. Like literally there is a pie chart, there is an Excel sheet. This person meant business in 2015. Can you imagine in hindsight? Like imagine what kind of time traveling wizard would wish this upon us, because now we're in the torture chambers of woke inclusion hell. Who would, it's like, be careful what you wish for, right? Who would have written such a piece? Are you ready for a plot twist? That writer was me. I know. That writer was me. You can Google it, people. Fact check it. The facts don't lie, all right? Which is going to be up to interpretation, as it is to most today in this episode. Yeah, that article was written by me in 2015 for VH1. And that's why I want to preface this entire episode with that. Because look, I'm the same person. Obviously, I wanted inclusion in the fun, honest, real way back then. And I still want it now, right? So I was saying it first. I was saying it before I was saying it before BuzzFeed and Vice hopped on the train and now are in the fiery pits of editorial purgatory, right? Because they couldn't sustain on this shit. So I was saying it before all y'all, before it was cool. So why am I so frustrated by all of this now, you ask? Like, what is the Alice in Wonderland turn of events that only the Mad Hatter himself could orchestrate? How did we get here? Here's how. Because what went from a yearning and a clear longingness, again, what I was calling out before its time and wanting before its time, has now, it's turned into this hostile, unreasonable orthodoxy of how we think, how we live, what we believe, cannibalizing one group over another. It's just has literally become this madness. And this isn't what I was standing up for then. And it's certainly not what I'm standing up for now. And what does that say? What does it say that I said this? And now coming from the cancel me baby girl, even as of late, I've been talking about the iconic brands like Abercrombie, Victoria's Secret. And I'm like, just let them live in their legacy and what they do. Like not every brand has to have everybody, right? And what I'm saying in all of this is consistent, right? What does this say? What does this say that I said that then and now I've come to this? Because everything has gone so far. It's all so forced. And I truly do believe in inclusion and everyone bringing what they got to the table. It's come to this point now and this 180 moment because it's just been pushed and it's gone too far. And specifically, as it pertains, right, to this whole heated ongoing dialogue about trans and trans issues, the fact that if you stray even a little bit, even a millimeter perhaps, you are then deemed transphobic. There's absolutely no room. There's no room for the real inclusion, right, that I was advocating for even back then. So that's why I'm prefacing, like I said, all of this with what I have to say today, because I am in all y'all's corner. I've been in the corner since the land before time of the woke brigade before everybody else, right? But with that said, If I disagree, or if anybody disagrees a little more, you know what, as Twisted Sister once said, and what we're going to visit today, we're not going to take it. Stop telling me to shut up. Stop telling me that I can't have a voice in this. If I don't fall exactly, or if we or if whoever doesn't fall exactly in line with your belief system, knock it off. So who am I referring to? I mean, when we get into these examples today, your boots are going to be shaken from here to the Mississippi, okay? Because you aren't going to believe just how nutty and extreme these examples are. So let's dive without further ado right into it with Leah Thomas, who recently said a couple weeks ago, by the way, this episode has been 3 weeks in the making. So this is a moment. This is coming out guns blazing. We ain't backing down, okay? Because this is, again, how nutty this all has become. So Leah Thomas had all of the audacity, a trans woman, talking about how feminists are using the guise of feminism to be transphobic, because people are taking issue with the fact that this is somebody, Leah Thomas, who has lived most of their life as a biological man, all 6'2" of her, whatever it is up there. You know, us little people wouldn't know about that, but who's recently now, in the recent years of her life, has become a woman and is competing against women in the NCAA swimming competition at an elite level, right? So here's Leah Thomas with the audacity saying that women are showing this half support. And I do half in air quotes if you're making the mistake of listening to this and not feasting your eyes on the moment, okay? So she's basically saying, support me swimming, support me in all that I do, support me competing against women, or you don't support me at all. It's all or nothing. And to me, this is just truly asinine. So it's like, we could fully be in your corner, want you to identify and live in your truth and compete in a fair and honest way. But because I am not in the lane, so to speak, of a biological man competing with women who, quite frankly, as I've said before, can't compete with that I'm transphobic. Like, I have to fall unreasonably exactly in line with this fucking Hitler way of thinking. That's insanity. Like, please take several seats. So here's where this gets so confusing. She is sitting down with a trans man. The person she's talking to is saying, you know, I agree. There's just like hurt going on and hurt against the patriarchy, and that's all this is. Meanwhile, this is a sidebar, okay? Because we've literally entered the biggest circus of our time. Like, the Ringley brothers did not ask for this. You have certified OBGYNs and doctors in the comments, I shit you not, applauding and clapping and being like, this is all great and fun and games. And I'm like, can I see your degree? Can I see your degree? I need it. You can fax. Beat me. I don't give a shit. Like, let me please see the legitimacy of this. Like, that's how upside down, topsy-turvy this has become. But back to what I was saying, right? Again, the idea of biological men transition into a woman, that's fine. But for most of their lives, or men are now recently living as a woman and coming into women's spaces, telling us how to feel and shutting us up and telling us to stop talking, or that we're transphobic because we're, quote, half supporting them. Okay. So yet again, we have someone who I guess is like holding on to that manly mindset that people so speak of dictating a woman's feelings, right? Like, take it back to the 1950s, Leah Thomas, honestly, knock it off. So there's that. But then on the other side of it, we have a trans man. So, okay, in theory, you're speaking and embodying a man, right? So I'm going to take your word at face value of that as a man. So you then are telling me that I'm just hurt by the patriarchy and, again, telling me how to feel. You have two people who in some way, shape, or form, at some point or another, right, has lived life as a man. And they have the audacity to be policing women and explaining and spoon feeding to women how they should feel right now. And this is where they want it both ways, because the same people who will argue, nope, Leah Thomas is a woman, she's been a woman this entire time, or this athlete who's a trans man, they've been a man this entire time. But at the same time, give legitimacy to their past life, so to speak, right? So the fact that, say, this trans man athlete, well, they've lived as a woman this whole time, you know, up until as of late. And so they should know, okay, by that logic, I'm going to assume that up until this point, Leah Thomas has been thinking like a man. So again, either way, make it make sense, right? Because I feel that both of these people are versions, somewhat of or another, of a man, yet again, entering women's spaces and telling us how to feel. That's what it is. That's the reality. I'm basing it off the reality everybody else is basing it off of, right? So what about that makes sense? And this is where I don't understand why, say somebody like a Caitlyn Jenner, who has actually had, and this is, again, I don't want to flip the script and as a woman be policing what's okay for trans to do and say and feel and think. And, oh, you've reached the threshold of being able to speak for women when you've hit this amount of years. That's not what I'm saying. But also, let's boil this down to good old common sense, right? You have someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who was, you know, a true renegade, was, again, an athlete at the highest level, Olympic winner, right? Lived as a man for years, and in a time when the intolerance was crazy, right? And people were not accepting, and had arguably the biggest coming out as trans in pop culture history, right? And she is somebody who's going, listen, I respect, obviously, the need for people to compete in healthy, fair sporting competitions. But how does this make sense? Again, a biological man takes one to know one, again, who competed. Like, you cannot dispute that. Who competed at the most, like, admirable level, can't compete with women, right? And she's blasted constantly as anti-trans, which, again, like, this shit is bananas that these people may or may not have in their pants. I don't think Caitlyn does, but nonetheless, why is she blasted? Again, someone who has had this long, hard journey of common sense and respecting it and being fair and advocacy, and she's blasted. Why? Because you have to be this, like, woke lefty? Why? Because she's conservative? It doesn't add up to me. And I recently saw, and I shared this to my story because I loved it so much, a trans woman who I also really admire, again, don't always agree with her, who I've interviewed, Blair White. She recently hit the nail on the head. She's like, look, I, more than anyone, want trans people to be integrated in society, but while also respecting women. Like, it is not that hard. So, like I said, to Leah Thomas, to this trans man, please stop stepping on all of our swimsuits, okay? Please stop. Because I'm going to get to this in the end. It's really not actually going to help any of y'all. That's the sad part. Like, you are all not doing yourselves any favors by ignoring actual facts. And on top of it, again, having the audacity to call women and feminists out, okay, for being transphobes. Not helping. Like, y'all are going to regret this. Mark my words. Again, I've already proven to be the Houdini Nostradamus of our time. So mark my words on this day. So again, to revisit that Victoria's Secret article I wrote, you would think watching this all play out, I would be jumping for joy. Like, yes, inclusion. At last. I literally say in the article, where is the trailblazer Caitlyn Jenner, who came out as trans this year? What about the gender fluid Ruby Rose, who's had the spotlight this year? What, your lingerie ain't good enough for them on the runway? I don't see them. Like, no lies detected. And seeing all of this now, all the hostility that's played out, this is certainly not what I meant. Now, here is one indisputable feminist icon who spoke up against Leah, because she's like, are you joking? Now, her name is Martina Navratilova, gay icon. Let me tell you a little bit about Martina. Not Martina McBride, okay? We have a Martina straight out of Czech, okay? She's swinging the hits on the Twitter and on the tennis field. or tennis. Okay, shows how much I know about sports on the tennis court. I was just quizzing you all. Okay, I don't know if you remember the story, but I literally was the only person in my high school's history who got cut from the tennis team. Neither here nor there, but yes, a great authority figure to speak on sports. No, enter Caitlyn Jenner. Like, go ahead, take the stage. So let me tell you a little bit about Martina, who had choice words for Leah. She's known as one of the greatest tennis players ever, has won Wimbledon. And again, like Caitlyn Jenner, really came up in a time, she was bisexual and then came out as gay, in a time when the acceptance was not pop, lock, and drop-in anywhere like it is today. Keep that in mind. So here's a little bit of Martina's street cred, okay? In 1992, she sued Colorado over an amendment that would backtrack on protecting gay people and their rights in the state, whether it be discriminated against and rights to, you know, being integrated in society, in the workplace, and all this, right? So straight up filed a lawsuit against their ass. In 2000, get this, received National Equity Award from the Human Rights Campaign, which is an LGBT advocacy group, okay? And in 2002, talk about a plot twist. This one just really gets my panties going. She was on CNN and accused of all people, again, so telling of our time and the turn of the tide, not in the NCAA swimming pool because they're a joke. She accused Republicans of oppressing free speech. In this time, it wasn't against like the far left woke, it was against Republicans, sure enough. So her whole thing was like, let me live how I live. I'm going to sue all your asses. I'm going to get rights for gay people and you can all bite me, right? So really putting in the work there. And again, like rising up above from being in one, you know, oppressive culture to theoretically another one here in the good old US of A, and like not taking it any mo. So here is what, okay, so that's a little bit, you got a little bit of background on our girl Martina, okay? So in recent years, seeing all of this lunacy unfold, she said something to the effect of trans rights and elite sports are two different things. Even though they're connected, what's the right way to set rules so everyone has a fighting chance? I don't know about you. Seems fair enough to me. Seems fair enough to me coming from Martina, okay? When she caught wind, she dropped her racket and understandably had a racket, okay? When she caught wind of what Leah Thomas said, having the audacity to call out feminists and explain to women, number one, what feminists are, and number two, why they're problematic. And here's what she said on Twitter to Leah. She said, "It's not fair. We shouldn't keep having to explain this. It isn't fair. It isn't fair for a biological man to compete with women in a physical sport." Again, this is coming from an athlete of the highest caliber. She said, "Stop explaining feminism to feminists." Can you blame her? This bitch has the army stripes. She was throwing it down when everyone was throwing shit at her and tomatoes at her and tennis balls at her. She was out here marching away being like, I am going to fight, okay, for gay rights, for me to live in my truth and my people and their identity and to be represented in society. Again, this is like the cold, hard work of like pounding the mean streets, like not complaining and crying in some lame ass little TikTok. Like this is a bitch who earned her stripes. Okay. So again, I don't blame her for being like, again, have the seat on the, like, be the water girl right now, Leah. Okay. I don't think you, who, you know, has been doing this for like 25 seconds and, you know, has just entered womanhood theoretically like a year ago when I was fighting for the shit when you probably weren't even in diapers yet. Like, how about you not tell me what a feminist is? And in the realm of sports, why this doesn't make sense and it's problematic. Because again, how insulting to insinuate it's like, oh, feminists are look like the term TERF, right? Trans exclusionary radical feminists, arguing that, you know, feminists and people fighting for women exclude trans as if they're not real women. And it's like, no one is saying that. No one, relax. Yes, of course you have, the extreme right wingers, you have the Megyn Kellys who simply won't acknowledge a biological man as being a woman. I'm talking about the people that we are including in this dialogue today, like J.K. Rowling, who I'm going to mention in a bit. So here's what happened though, because of our psychosis induced culture. Athlete Ally, another advocacy group, not only removed her from their advisory board, they called her, you literally get a load of this, okay? Brace yourselves. Called her transphobic and said that she had a false understanding of science and data. Okay, I'm just going to let that one sink in as I go to my next page of my notes that were annoyed to be even written because all of this is chaos, right? So here's the problem. One of many of the problems that I have with this is why does, we talked about people who are recently women, not only entering women's spaces, but cannibalizing them and stomping on them. This is what I don't understand. Why is the voice or the point of view or the feelings of a trans woman more important and supersede those of not only take out your average run-of-the-mill woman, right? But a woman who pioneered in queer rights of sports, pop culture, society, this country. How does that make sense? Moreover, as it pertains specifically to gay people, let's just think about this, right? I'm not even going to get right now into the idiocy of saying that there is no biological merit in this. Literally, I have had haters and people say to me that in the brain, there are no biological differences and sex and gender is purely societal, purely made up by society, okay? In which case, think about gay people. I've talked about Andrew Sullivan, a prominent journalist who's a gay man, and he said, okay, if this is true, you're basically erasing and invalidating my entire fight experience as a gay man and being a biological man who is attracted to another man. What about all of our fights, all of our rights? Again, my life experience. So what are you saying? That, again, there's no legitimacy in any of that? I find this entire facet of it really, really fascinating. I'm not going to dive too much into it today, but just keep that in your back pocket too, right? As we explore this, I'll dive into it further at some point for sure. And this is where I say, when y'all aren't doing yourselves any favors, as woke as you get, women, and feminists find themselves in a little pickle and in a bind and are pissed about this, understandably. You know why? Because of all of this, now rules and legislation and laws that women have fought, tooth and nail for in order to be equal to men. It's all we hear about all the time, right? We're still not equal, smash the patriarchy, da, 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 da. Well, guess what? Now these bills aren't being passed because of discrimination on the basis of sex. Now it's gotten all murky because it's holding people up. It's like the Biden administration, what they're doing to amend these rules. It's like, you can't, discriminate on the basis of sex. So now that means trans people, which now means, okay, if there's a trans person, like the story of an 18-year-old trans woman who still had a penis in a high school shower locker room with like 14-year-old girls, well, that can't be reprimanded because technically it's discrimination on the basis of sex, right? Or even, something like competing in the field, in the swimming pool, on the court, in the arena, what have you. So because it's gotten so topsy-turvy, these laws in theory to protect women aren't being passed. People are taking a beat and they're going, well, wait a minute, is all this going to happen then if it's going to be included in that umbrella? So I have feminist friends going, this is insane. Like, I am in their corner. I will use the X in the women, like, again, in my view, like, let's just convolute this and erase women even more, sure. But they're saying, I want to help. I want to be in your corner, but they won't even meet me halfway. Meet me halfway. I'm here. I will use your pronouns. I will respect you. I will throw your baby shower, girl. Like, I will use the X, the Latinx, the women X all around town. But it's so intolerant that I feel like I can't even be met halfway. Like, meet me there. Not only can I not be met halfway, but I feel like yet again, women are being told to go in the corner and shut up, and that our opinions and our voices don't matter. And understandably, they're like, it's like the Martina thing. It's like, that makes me mad because we have fought all these years, and for what? Just to eat shit again, all over again. And that's why these people I know who are really good people and have all pure intentions, they're like, let's educate each other. Let's have room for everyone. Let's lift each other up and elevate each other. Now they're even the people going, well, now I'm pissed because now my rights are getting stepped on and I can't even have a voice in this. And even the same thing goes for J.K. Rowling. She says, I will totally, as an adult, I will march next to you. I will support you. But if she questions the legitimacy of trans women being in women's spaces, in prisons, in housing, in sports, you know, the way that it's seeped into the school system and how confused kids are, and irreparable damage in that realm. Like, again, if you stray at all, if you question, if you have a concern, you're labeled a transphobe, you're labeled a TERF. And it's like, okay, so are you just going to collectively tell us all to shut the fuck up all over again? It's insanity. I mean, I've even experienced it on my own page. This is for literally having the fairness. Like, what I said was totally honest. It was fair. It was empathetic to everyone. All I said was trans women are trans women and women are women. That is a truth. We are two different groups. And the thing is, that's okay. I never said one is less than. I never said one is second class. They're different, and that's okay. But let's acknowledge and respect it as such, okay? I was in turn gaslit. I was called a trash TERF, a bigot, and gross. Okay. Again, I never threw a name. I don't stoop to that level. I never threw a name, yet I'm getting hurled all these insults. And it's like, again, what is the prerogative? What is the mission here? To throw insults and castrate anybody who strays or has even common sense. Like, it reminds me a lot, interestingly enough, and this is where, like, I try to almost empathize. It reminds me of what you hear in the extreme groups like Baptist Church, right? And the woman who hosts the J.K. Rowling podcast, you guys know that I talk about all the time, she used to be on the other side of it not too long ago, literally as part of the Baptist group, like being outside of funerals and get-togethers, literally throwing insults and the most derogatory terms toward gay people, towards all sorts of people. And it's because they think they're like, they really think that they're doing the right thing. It's like, we owe it to our neighbors. Like, we owe it to society to right the wrong, to correct them. Like, they'll thank us later. Like, this is our mission. We need to do this. Obviously now she's had the come to Jesus, maybe quite literally, moment of realizing that was insane. That was really fucked up, and that's not okay, right? So it's like they're coming from that crusader place of like, this is our purpose and our mission, and we have to correct it. But look at the damage that you're causing, right? I'm going to explain even more. So we have Martina. Now we have rock icons in on the chat. Like, you can't get any more drag, and I'm not saying drag and trans are the same thing, right? But it's all become in the same sort of, like I said, convoluted mishmash arena where they've almost become synonymous in a way, because either way, it's, you know, sexuality, gender identity, and how we express that, right? So here's what happened. You have the co-founder and lead singer of Kiss, okay, who has bigger hair than Shaka Khan and more makeup than Ronald McDonald on any given day of the year, Paul Stanley. Okay. And again, keep in mind, this is someone who was really ahead of his time and a crusader, like wearing like tight outfits and makeup and big hair as men in the 80s. Like, people would look at you like you're cuckoo bird, right? That was, again, not as accepted or applauded as it was today. And they really had to fight for that and go against the grain and kind of be like, well, fuck it, like take it or leave it. You know what I mean? And really be trailblazers in that way. So he made the mistake. And again, I think as someone who really blaze this trail in terms of self-expression and sexuality and kind of mixing genders and expression and makeup and all this, right? Credibility or authority, to say this and spit this on the mic. So he's talking about it in terms of kids now and how confused they've all become. He said it's a sad and dangerous, he said this on Twitter, it's a sad and dangerous fad, and it confuses young people sexually. Now, he does acknowledge there are adults who choose to reassign and who identify as someone else, and that's okay. But young people are in no position to have been exploring themselves sexually enough to make these choices that will, quite frankly, affect them for the rest of their life and that they probably can never take back, right? Obviously took major shit and he actually backtracked. I think the mistake that he made, and again, I wouldn't even say mistake, I think that this is a problem with our culture at large. It's like we have to watch every single little word that we say with a microscope. Like, I think in his case, saying that it was a sad and dangerous fad is what got him in trouble, because people will argue like, this isn't a fad. This is our real lives. Like, this is an actual thing. This isn't like a cool trend. Like, he made it out, right? But all that goes to say, I don't think that he should, or anybody should be watching their ass like that so much. Like, oh, did I say this right? Did I say that right? It's like, that's the whole point. We have to be able to have these conversations, not get dragged, no pun intended, and watch our ass with every little thing we say. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. Like, we have to be able to do that. We can't be scrutinizing every little thing that someone says all the time. And even for me with the show, I can admit I try to really cross my T's and dot my I's and be really certain about what I say because of this, and to avoid all this mess and to be really sure and poignant with what I'm saying. But I still believe it's like, it shouldn't have to be that way. There's a part of me that's like, you know what? I don't care. Like, it comes out how it comes out and we can move and grow from there. It's like, we get what you're saying. We know that there's no malintent. It's like, we can gather what the person is saying, right? So it just shouldn't even be about that. Like, it goes against what I'm about. It's like, we have to be able to just talk and not scrutinize every little thing. Like, it's out of control. So who responds to this? This is great, okay? But Twisted Sisters D. Snyder, again, Kiss's sister from another mister, like really was the pioneer in the makeup and the drag and the big hair of rock and roll in the 80s. So he responds to this tweet, despite the fact that Paul Stanley of Kiss did backtrack, this guy ain't standing down, okay? He ain't backing down. So keep in mind too, like Martina, this is somebody like back in April, I think he did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and he literally prides himself on, because of all this, being a gay icon. And because of all the pushback at the time in the 80s, he's like, I don't give a fuck. So he similarly to the Kiss man said the same thing. I don't think kids have mental capabilities to make these decisions for the rest of their lives, that kind of thing, right? And kind of playing around with the fact that obviously, like, check me out, like I'm Sephora's, biggest clientele, like buying every makeup under the sun as a dude, and I think that I have, again, as someone who really paved the way in pop culture for this. So I think I got a little bit of room to talk about this to you all. So here is, like, you won't believe this, okay? The San Francisco Pride Parade had previously, before this tweet, had asked him, and this is a huge, huge deal, this event every year, asked him to not only be the grand marshal of the parade, okay, but to sing Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It, right? We're not gonna take it, as I'm not gonna take any of this anymore, for crying out loud, for the love of God. So as emblematic and as the theme song for the Pride Parade this year. So when he tweeted this, okay, they dropped him. They dropped him like Mr. Potato Head, never saw it coming, and said that they were heartbroken and angry that he was promoting transphobia. And again, let that sink in, as if he had committed the crime, like angry and heartbroken, when it's like, okay, wait, well, I think there may be some validity in what he's saying. Further, though, and this is why I'm so glad that he's not going to take it anymore, he didn't back down. And he literally basically says, I'm paraphrasing, but basically says, you can't do this. Like, first of all, he's like, I didn't realize that people who don't fall exactly in line with this community are transphobic. Nonetheless, people who have been marching with, fighting for, fighting alongside them for years. Again, before it was like the cool, trendy thing, right, to do. And you're going to ostracize us and punish us for having a concern or disagreeing or being on the fray in one way. Why, he asks. That's what I want to know too. That is indeed what I want to know. So let's bring it all back to the beginning, right? Like I said, the intolerance of this. So I'm reflecting on this Victoria's Secret piece that I wrote, when what also just drops on us is the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Like the best, goals, gotta have it in the bag, right? And you would think, I mean, it's pretty much reflective of what I was talking about in my Victoria's Secret piece 8 years ago. It has Martha Stewart, who's 80 and looking bomb. Padma Lakshmi, same thing, 52, looking like a goddamn goddess, like green goddess of the earth, indeed. And you have Kim Petras on one of the covers, who Kim is a very famous trans woman and she's a singer. And you would think, again, given the piece that I wrote, that I would be doing back handsprings, being like, oh my God, yes. Like I've only been, advocating for this for years before it had anyone, like no one was given it the time of day, right? And I gotta say, because of this, I just can't say that I have that same enthusiasm. And that is what is sad. Like I'm stoked to see Martha at 80. Like if that is not me at 80, I will please be pissed. Like someone exit me from this situation, from this simulation, from this metaverse. Like I don't want it. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm over it, right? Because that is goals. But the problem is, again, it's like we have to all fall so in line with this way of thinking. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of the force feeding. This is, again, not the fun and the real inclusion and highlighting everybody. This is being straight up bullied. And I won't be having it anymore. And it just, it loses its luster. It's not what I had set out for all those years ago, unfortunately, because it's become straight madness. It's become being gaslit. It's become one group cannibalizing another. It's all piled up. It's just all gone way too far. This isn't actually helping trans people, because also it's like, I really think, unfortunately, I think the pendulum is going to swing the other way. And I think that the backlash is going to be real. People are going to have had it. People are going to be sick of being told to shut up in the name of what's honest and fair and real and genuine concerns and things that would help everybody. I don't mean for this to sound ominous, but again, this is why I say that I am in your court, but I can foresee it. I can see it happening already. These people crusading so hard and punishing people, they have it coming. They better stop, because people are going to be so fed up. And I'll tell you this, in the words of Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it anymore.